Over decades, the name InGen has become synonymous with a spectacular and terrifying dream. The resurrection of dinosaurs. We've seen their wonders, witnessed their majesty, and survived their terrible might. But what happens when that dream is no longer about spectacle, but about pure, unadulterated hubris? What happens if ambition crosses the line of scientific limits, and the result is not majestic wonders, but the twisted, unseen consequences of a forgotten experiment? This is not a story about a theme park. This is the story of Saint-Hubert, a black site for a new kind of terror, and the story of the six-limbed monster that rules it, Distortus Rex. In 2010, 5 years after Jurassic World officially opened on Île Nublar, another project was underway on a remote, fog-shrouded island in the Atlantic Ocean called Saint-Hubert. This was InGen's clandestine Site C, a secret research facility dedicated to genetic experimentation and the creation of genetically modified and mutated dinosaurs, designed to sustain audience interest for years to come. The island was a testing ground, an illicit workshop of a corporation that was playing God with fire. The disaster that brought this facility down was not caused by a rival company or a rogue hacker. It wasn't sabotage, but a failure born of everyday carelessness and neglect. The legend, recounted in whispers among the few survivors, says it all started with a simple candy wrapper getting sucked into a ventilation system. A trivial piece of trash, a symbol of human indifference, became the inciting event that led to a cascade of system failures. The facility collapsed, alarms blared, and containment protocols across the island failed. The captives were suddenly free, roaming an island built not for them, but for their captors. Among these monstrous mutations was a deformed, six-limbed Tyrannosaurus. Its official name was Project DRex, short for Distortus Rex. This creature was not a finely tuned marvel of genetic engineering like its later, more famous counterparts. It was a prototype, a discarded mistake, a biological failure that was never meant to see the light of day. But with the facility in chaos, the DRex broke out of its pen, and the true nightmare began. Survivors recounted a scene of pure, unrestrained terror. The island's rescue helicopter, the only chance of salvation for the fleeing InGen staff, was destroyed by the Distortus Rex. Like a predator toying with its prey, the monstrous tyrant ripped the head off Martin Krebs, an employee who had tried to run for the chopper pad. The creature's grotesque form, a T-Rex with an extra pair of arms, was a sight of pure horror. It was a living monument to scientific overreach and carelessness, a living ghost in the machine that InGen had created. The creature, a symbol of neglect and the unforeseen consequences of intellectual hubris, vanished into the island's jungle, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a forgotten black site that would become its kingdom. This chaotic opening is a crucial reversal of the narrative we're used to. In the original Jurassic Park, the collapse was due to intentional sabotage and the philosophical inevitability of life's power to overcome man-made limitations. Here, the collapse is a mundane act. A candy wrapper, a single moment of human sloppiness, started a disaster. It reframes the central danger of the franchise. It's not just the hubris of playing God, but the laziness and incompetence with which we do it. The DRex was not a planned marvel, but a random byproduct, a living, horrifying testament to how corporations and scientists, in their mad dash for progress, often create monsters they never even intended to. The idea of a six-limbed theropod dinosaur sounds completely fictional. After all, the name tetrapod literally means 4 limbs. But for all its fantastical appearance, the DRex's six-limbed form is actually rooted in a very real biological phenomenon. The condition is called polymorphism, a birth defect that results in an individual having more than the usual number of limbs. While it is most commonly observed in amphibians and mammals, the underlying genetic mechanisms are a profound case study in developmental biology. Polymorphism is a type of limb development defect, dysmelia, a malformation that originates from abnormalities in the embryonic process. The presence of extra limbs is often a result of genetic factors involving homeotic genes, chromosomes, and/or exposure to environmental toxins. The extra limbs are often smaller, atrophied and/or malformed, and in many cases are often non-functional and lack mobility. This is where the scientific basis for the DRex becomes truly fascinating. We can look at documented cases from the natural world. For example, in central Spain, a case of polymelia was reported in a common midwife toad, Alites obstetricans. The toad had an extra forelimb that, while well ossified, lacked mobility and was dragged during the toad's locomotion, offering no practical benefit to the animal. Similarly, in some Angus cattle, a recessive gene has been identified that causes a condition called developmental duplication, resulting in extra limbs. The existence of these real-world examples helps ground the fictional DRex in biological possibility. The DRex, therefore, is not a supernatural monster, but a pathological one, a living embodiment of what happens when a genetic code is manipulated beyond its natural limits, resulting in a catastrophic and unpredictable developmental outcome. It is a six-limbed tyrant, but its extra limbs are a sign not of power, but of a fundamental flaw. This comparative biological analysis shows that the DRex is not a random, cool-looking monster. It's a case study in genetic disaster. The narrative of Jurassic World rebirth frames the creature as an object of pathology and genetic calamity, rather than just another movie monster. The DRex is a critical piece of a much larger puzzle, a thematic thread that ties together all of InGen's hybrid disasters. It's part of a lineage that shows the gradual and morally compromised progression of Dr. Henry Wu's hybridization program. Wu, the chief geneticist, was driven not by a moral compass, but by his love for science and his own ego. He viewed DNA as a blank slate to be manipulated at will, with no regard for the ethical or biological consequences of his work. The DRex, a failed experiment from 2010, is living proof that this fundamental flaw was present from the very beginning. The DRex's chaotic origin, born from an accident and regarded as a failed experiment, positions it as the crude foundation upon which Wu's later, seemingly more stable creations were built. Before the public spectacle of the Indominus Rex and the militarized Indoraptor, there was the Scorpios Rex, a creature deemed too ugly to display, and with a mind as fragmented as its appearance. The Scorpios was a prototype, a harbinger of the mental instability that would plague all of Wu's later hybrids. Its extremely unpredictable nature and ADH were not isolated quirks, but a recurring consequence of Wu's reckless methodology. The Indominus Rex was the public culmination of this ambition, a hybrid designed to dominate with the DNA of various theropods and modern animals, like cuttlefish and tree frogs. Its purpose was to be a shock event in the most dominant dinosaur. Yet even this pinnacle of hybrid technology was psychologically unstable, a monster that killed for sport. The Indoraptor, another product of Wu's work, was a psychotic and skittish military prototype, exhibiting uncontrollable head tics due to a glitch in the DNA. The DRex, with its grotesque six-limbed malformation, is the ultimate symbol of this pattern, scrapped from the production line and a failure in execution that predates them all. It is a physical manifestation of the very same glitches in the DNA that Wu's later, more refined hybrids only partially concealed. This is the thematic lineage of InGen's hubris, a progression from accidental malformation to intentional yet flawed creation. The DRex is the raw, uncontained horror that InGen tried to hide, a critical part of a story that reveals the entire hybridization program was built on a foundation of moral and biological compromise. With its six limbs and gorilla-like hunched posture, the DRex is a creature that defies our traditional understanding of a theropod predator. Its morphology is an evolutionary contradiction, forcing us to reevaluate how it moves and hunts. To understand this unique monster, we must turn to an unexpected source from the Miocene epoch, the extinct mammal Anisidon. Anisidon was a chalicotherium, a mammal related to rhinos and horses. Its body proportions, however, were dramatically different, often compared to a gorilla or a giant ground sloth. It had relatively short hind legs with hooves and long clawed forelimbs that it used to pull down tree branches to feed on leaves, and as a formidable defense against predators. Anisidon's body shape made it a slow, clumsy runner, but its claws and powerful forelimbs gave it a specialized ecological niche. By applying this model to the DRex, we can construct a scientifically grounded hypothesis for its behavior. The DRex's 6 limbs, with the 2 extra limbs likely smaller and less mobile due to polymilia, would make it a poor runner, much like Anisidon or a person with a birth defect. Instead of a classic bipedal charge, the DRex would be the master of a different kind of predation. Its hunched posture suggests a focus on brute strength and grappling. The extra forelimbs, even if non-functional for propulsion, could be used for bracing, anchoring the creature to the ground during a struggle, or even for rudimentary climbing and ambush tactics in dense jungle. It would be a predator that relied on surprise and immense power, not speed. Its massive, boxy skull hints at a simple, brutal intelligence focused on killing rather than the cunning of a velociraptor or an Indominus. The DRex, therefore, is a grappling, tearing predator, a stalking nightmare from the shadows that uses its unique deformity not for speed, but for a specialized, brutal form of hunting. The existence of this creature, therefore, is not just a testament to genetic flaws, but to nature's relentless ability to find a way, even for the most monstrous of mistakes. The DRex may rule the land, but the ecosystem of Saint-Hubert is a complex tapestry woven from InGen's discarded creations. The island isn't just a stage for one monster, but a complete world of primal terror, where each creature's existence is a testament to both ancient biology and modern science. The narrative of Jurassic World Rebirth introduces a host of other terrifying inhabitants, and by examining them through the lens of modern paleontology, we can bring a rich, plausible depth to this fictional world. On the island's shores and in its rivers, a pack of 5 Spinosaurus roam. This provides a fascinating opportunity to explore one of the most hotly debated topics in modern paleontology, the locomotion of Spinosaurus. For years, paleontologists have argued over its semi-aquatic nature. Some research supports the aquatic hypothesis, pointing to the dinosaur's dense bones similar to penguins and sea cows, and its paddle-like tail, which has been shown in experiments to be highly effective at generating thrust in water. This evidence suggests that Spinosaurus may have been a true diving swimmer, using its heavy bones as ballast to hunt underwater. Conversely, more recent studies have pushed back on this idea. The shoreline ambush predator hypothesis suggests that Spinosaurus was too buoyant to fully submerge, and that its large, cumbersome sail would have made it a clumsy and unstable swimmer, unlike a crocodile, which can easily roll to pursue prey. Instead, this research portrays the animal as a giant, heron-like wader that used its crocodile-like snout with pressure receptors to detect fish in shallow water. The presence of both these perspectives in the script shows a nuanced, up-to-date understanding of science, showing that even the most studied animals are full of mystery. The surrounding ocean is no less perilous. The island's waters are patrolled by a genetically modified Mosasaurus. Here again, modern paleontology has reshaped our understanding. For a long time, mosasaurs were depicted as giant, finned sea snakes that swam with undulating, eel-like motions. However, recent fossil discoveries, including specimens with soft tissue impressions, have revealed a more streamlined morphology. It is now understood that highly evolved mosasaurs, like Mosasaurus hoffmanni, had a powerful tapered body and an elongated tail that ended in a downward-pointing, bilobed fluke. This modern morphology, more akin to a shark or an ichthyosaur than an eel, made mosasaurs a fast, efficient predator of the open ocean. By integrating these real paleontological debates and discoveries, the fictional world of Saint-Hubert is elevated from a simple fan fiction to an authentic piece of speculative natural history. The DRex may be the grotesque tyrant of the land, but it shares its world with other complex, formidable creatures, each with its own incredible scientific lineage and story. The story of Distortus Rex is a cautionary tale that echoes the central themes of the entire Jurassic franchise. It's a narrative that goes beyond simple monster movies and delves into deep ethical questions about genetic engineering and scientific responsibility. The DRex was never a planned success. It was a mistake, an unwanted byproduct of a reckless, secretive experiment. Yet in the end, it was not killed. Instead, it survived, its terrifying presence a constant threat that now permanently haunts the island. This ultimate fate makes the DRex a living, eternal ghost of InGen's past. It's a chilling fulfillment of the warning issued by Dr. Ian Malcolm in the original film, Life Finds a Way. In the context of the DRex, this is not just a comment on biological resilience, but a stark warning about the unpredictability of genetic tampering. In their rush to advance humanity, scientists like Dr. Wu forgot to ask the most important question. Should we? The DRex is a physical, nightmarish embodiment of the risks involved in the real-world debate about resurrecting extinct species. Today, researchers are exploring the idea of creating proxy species of extinct animals by inserting ancient genes into living relatives. The ethical concerns are enormous, from the welfare of the animals created to the risk that these new creatures could become invasive species and harm modern ecosystems. The DRex is a terrifying fictional example of this very real risk, a monster born from a genetic flaw that survived and became an unstoppable ecological force, a new apex predator on a forgotten island. The story of Distortus Rex is a living monument to human hubris and the uncontrollable power of nature. It's a reminder that the line between creation and destruction is very thin, and a single careless act can start a disaster that has no end. The monster may have been a failed experiment, but on Saint-Hubert, it found a purpose, an ecological niche, and a kingdom of its own. Distortus Rex was never meant to be created. It was a mistake, a ghost in the machine. But on that forgotten island, it found a kingdom of its own. It's a cautionary tale, not carved in stone, but etched in flesh and bone. And it asks us a question that echoes through every generation of human innovation. In our relentless quest to command the forces of creation, do we ever truly stop to ask if we should? This concludes our deep dive into the cautionary tale of Distortus Rex. This isn't just about a monster. It's a reminder of the thin line between creation and destruction. What are your thoughts on this story? Do you think humanity should tamper with nature just because we can? Let us know your opinions in the comments below. And if you enjoy in-depth stories about science and ethics like this one, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video.